Okay, let's do this. Jog 3 miles before breakfast. Make it to work by 9. Run out for a salad at lunch. Oh, time to own that meeting at 3. Yes, 10,000 steps. What's next?
Fearless is not hitting snooze. That's the power of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Federal Employee Program. With more healthy benefits and tools, no one does more to help you live fearless. Sign up at fepblue.org/action by December 14th.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliate stations coast to coast present
Baseball, Beer, and Barbecue.
The 0-2, swing and a miss, strike 3, blew it past it.
Discussing baseball, good drinks, and food.
And you got your honey mustard?
I love mustard.
With Ted Hicks, Todd Vandenberg, and Lee Vowell.
Well, big deal. I am very professional.
Every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. on the Happy Hour Network.
Or 10 o'clock, as the case actually may be. It's an old intro, but I played it because Todd is on the show. So welcome to Baseball Beer and Barbecue. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on the Twitter at Baseball Beer BBQ. And read us on our blog site, baseballbeerbbq.com. We will be joined in just a few moments by Joon Lee of SB Nation to discuss possible free agent moves and hot stove news in general. I, of course, am Lee. Ted and Todd are the better part of the show. Who else do we have to thank today? Anybody?
We have none other than our good friends at I-95 Sports Network, the Back Sports page, RF Sports, XRP Radio, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention NGSC Sports that powers us on the iHeartRadio app. I believe our newest partner is Arena Sports Network, and there's some changes going on with CJ Computer Services, but I'll hand that over to Todd.
And speaking of CJ Computers, NC, computer repair NC, it doesn't matter if you're running a Sinclair hooked up to a 13-inch black and white Magnavox console with alligator clips, or half a dozen Crays in parallel and you're plotting the landing course for Mars 1. If your computer is sick, if your computer is wounded, if your computer is dead, there's only one place to go. Whether you're in North Carolina, the Southeast, or anywhere in the universe. Computer Repair NC, 919-653-8496, 919-653-8496. Now in Wake Forest!
Well, I'm pretty sure that CJ Computers NC could probably beat Wake Forest in football because they're pretty bad. So before we get into what I want to talk about, which is me, which will be the last 5 minutes of the show. No, I'm joking. We've got some hot stove news going on. We've got some trades happening. We've got some free agents thinking about maybe they want to sign. So we've got some people actually, for the first time ever, accepting the qualifying offers that they are being offered. So, first of all, let's go straight into the trades that have happened. So, Craig Kimbrell was traded to Boston from San Diego. So he had a wonderful year that he spent in San Diego. Keith Law of ESPN says that the Red Sox paid way too high of a price for him, and this is Keith Law said, quote, "Boy, did they, being the Red Sox, ever pay a steep price for him. 2 prospects among the top 50 in the game and 2 other prospects of significant value. Center fielder Manuel Margot is the best prospect heading back to San Diego, and he's exactly the player that Padres needed to get back in a trade this winter. The Padres didn't have a true center fielder, and Margot is a plus defender. He's going to be able to handle big territory in Petco. He just basically overall thinks that and honestly, when you're getting a closer, even though closers are valuable, obviously, do you, Ted, really want to trade 4 really good prospects for 1 closer?"
I'm guessing Keith Law is basically saying the Red Sox were fleeced. That's what it sounds like. Every year someone is fleeced, and most closers go 60 innings or so. That's a pretty steep package. But I'm going to say this much: Dave Dombrowski, hard at work. It's not like we haven't seen this before. It's kind of tough. Really a little too much. Great deal for the Padres, though.
It is. I mean, it's funny. They're doing the opposite of what they did last year when they were trading prospects for what they thought were going to be major league stars in 2015. Of course, the team was mediocre at best. Todd, do you think it was too much for prospects for one closer, even though he's a great closer, for four prospects?
If he gets them back into the postseason, it's not too much. You know, have they mortgaged 2017 and 2018 and 20? Yeah, and in a big way they have. But again, it's all in. You know, what are you focused on? I mean, do you want to follow their pattern is like, oh, you suck. Oh, you're great. You suck. You're great. You know, just like the Giants, you suck. You're great. You suck. You're great. That's kind of an iffy proposition, but you know, their pattern's clearly working better than the Padres. So, you know, if it gets them back to where they want to be, it's not too much. It's going to suck long term, but you know, it all depends on what your goal is. Clearly, their goal is to win the division this year and get back there. You don't make that trade, obviously, if that's not what they're thinking. And the Padres, you know, the Padres are who we thought they were. I mean, this is why the Padres are always going to be mediocre, because they're going to, you know, general management by ping pong ball. I mean, it's like, oh, just exactly what you said. It's like, oh, let's trade prospects and win now. It's like, that doesn't work. Oh, let's get prospects. It's like, think of your fucking mind. You know, it's like, have some kind of an organizational idea. That's ridiculous. I mean, this particular move is smart for them because, yeah, they need the prospects because they threw them away last year, but they're ridiculous. And you might as well be ridiculous because they're never going to do anything in that division. Because either the Dodgers or the Giants are going to be beating them up all the damn time anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. It would have been more interesting to see them, probably better, I think, for the Red Sox if they were going to trade four prospects to one team to get a starter instead of a closer, because they need starters, I think. Obviously,
true.
They need
Very
a closer,
true.
but you can't get to the closer if you don't have a good starting rotation, obviously. So.
Yeah, a great closer can save 50 games on an 80-win team. It doesn't do you a lot of good.
Exactly.
Lee and Todd just want to say, I mean, if they got someone that was going to chew up 200 or so innings, that's one thing. But a guy who's going to pitch 60 innings,
yeah, and
that you need some good quality pitching to get him to where he needs to go in that latter part of the eighth and ninth inning. So, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe Dombrowski took over. Yeah, maybe Dombrowski took over the team, and he was like, "Man, we got way too many good players in the farm system. We got to get rid of some of these guys."
I can't deal with this.
I'm not used to this. I need my major league guys. I don't deal with the thing down below us. So another Brave that was involved, former Brave now, that was involved in a trade. Andre Toll Simmons of the Braves was traded to the Angels, which is really a great move for the Angels because Simmons, even if he is a mediocre hitter, which he still is at this point, phenomenal defensive player, which is what the Angels need. What do you guys think about this trade? Todd, start with you.
It is a big move because, the guy's a great glove, and they obviously needed that. That's all I'm going to say.
Todd's upset. He's not even a Braves fan, but he's still upset, like the Braves fans are about that trade. So, Ted?
Braves fans. Are there Braves fans? Are there Braves fans? I'm sorry, Ted, but are there Braves fans really? We've been there. We know there's not Braves fans. You know, they show up maybe for opening week, and if they make the playoffs somehow, it's like maybe they'll show up, maybe they won't. That's a god-awful sports town. It's a great town, but it's a god-awful sports town. They don't deserve Simmons.
I just noticed that, number one, Joel, our good friend Joel, probably dropped the load in his pants when that trade happened. And number two, I noticed from this past summer, watching when the Mets visited the Braves, there was no one there. No one at the stadium. So, I don't know. Previously, we were saying Braves 2017. It might be Braves 2050.
Yeah, I don't get it because
yeah.
I don't get it because of the fact that he's still under a club friendly contract. It's not like they had to get rid of him this year before he just blew up the market next year because of his defensive skills. They still have him under contract for 2 or 3 years. So I really don't understand what the Braves were doing last year and this year. Maybe they're trying to get prospects, but as Ted just said, maybe, prospects still take a little while to actually mature if they ever mature. And you've got a major league shortstop who, again, maybe he's a mediocre hitter, but the guy is a phenomenal fielder, and that's what you really want out of a shortstop, bottom line. Guy hits, that's a plus, but it's ridiculous. The guy needs to be the anchor, really, of your inner defense, and, Simmons is phenomenal at it. So, a free agent that actually...
Like we were talking...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, like we were talking last week, it's like our team's going to make that move towards the Kansas City role where it's defense, 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 and it's like, this guy's an anchor. This guy, and again, you need the right ballpark for it to really be right, but, that's ridiculous to just ship off a quality, and I don't mean a quality, a quality defender like that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, there was a free agent signing this week. Marco Estrada actually decided to stay with the Blue Jays, signing a 2-year, $26 million a year contract, or combined contract, $13 million a year. Estrada pitched, well in the playoffs. He's been a really good, he's not Cy Young candidate, obviously, not yet anyway. I doubt he ever will be, but he's a solid pitcher, starting pitcher. It's funny because the Blue Jays re-signed this guy for $13 million. And he's the kind of guy the Red Sox really should have gotten. Even though you're not going to give up 4 prospects for this guy, it would have been smarter if they'd tried to get a guy like this. Todd?
Yeah, you're dead on. It would have taken a couple prospects and not 2 of the top 50 in the game. And like Ted said, and you said, this is what they need. It's like, yeah, closer's nice, but with that starting rotation, what's too bad we don't have Murph on today. I'd love to hear what he has to say about going for Kimbrel when they don't have a damn starting pitcher. They've got a rotation of aces. It's like, nah, right. They got 80 aces.
Yeah,
go fish, asshole. It's baseball.
They picked up Burkholz's option, right? Which makes no sense to me whatsoever. That's $16 million a year to a guy next year, to a guy who's hurt half the time. So, Ted, your thoughts on Estrada signing with the Blue Jays? Do you think it's going to be a sign that more guys are just going to stay with the teams they've been playing for at this point? Or is it just he really enjoys playing in Toronto and he decided to stay there?
I think both sides have found a good fit. So it makes sense to take that deal, to be extended. I think what we're noticing, there's going to be a handful of players that are going to take that option, take that qualifying option. But for the most part, everyone's going for the gusto. They're going for the money. Because, we know nowadays when a pitcher hits 27, 28, they're looking for that big contract, that big deal. Good move for the Blue Jays. I'm really interested in seeing what happens with Price. So interested because he seemed like he fit with the Blue Jays, I want to make sure I get his name correctly, Anthopoulos, with him no longer being there and doing kind of what Dombrowski did, getting rid of all the prospects and getting that win now mentality. With that guy no longer there, I want to see where does a guy like Price go, because if Estrada can get 13 mil, what is Price going to demand? 20, 25?
Hey guys, why do you think? This is the first time anyone's accepted a qualifying offer, and 3 guys have accepted them.
That's right.
No one's ever accepted one. What is going on with that? What do you think the situation is? Obviously everyone's different, but Anderson, Rasmus, Wieters, they've all accepted the qualifying offers.
And I know from Anderson and Wieters both said that they accepted the qualifying offers because They're coming off years where they probably wouldn't get necessarily more money. And they'd get a longer contract, obviously, wherever they sign, but they wouldn't have. So they think they come back next year, especially with Waiters. I mean, he's a good catcher, and he suffered from injury, but they're hoping that they're going to really prove themselves in 2016, and then the next contract they sign. But and for Colby Rasmus to take it, to me, I mean, it's like he's not making $15 million a year anywhere. That was a smart move, at least next year, for him to do. Ted?
Sometimes you kind of have to go with the Darrelle Revis effect. You kind of have to gamble. You got to gamble a little bit, and you got to bet on yourself. So, as you mentioned, Lee, some of these players that are taking these qualifying offers, number one, this is going to be the maximum money, but they're betting against themselves for next season for them to have a breakout season and then really cash in for the 2017 season.
Yeah, and just to jump on the David Price comment, topic, I think David Price is going to make an excellent number 3 in L.A. He'll have the little L.A. on his hat. There's no way he's going to end up in L.A., especially if they re-sign Greinke, which they're hoping to do. But somebody did put out an article, I think, on Bleacher Report saying, why not? The Dodgers have the money. Why not try to do it? So, and it makes sense, if you're going to spend the money, and they are obviously...
Yeah, absolutely. They should try. They got the money, and it's like, who cares? And
there's no salary cap.
And isn't that crazy?
Right.
He would be the number 3. Clearly, he's the number 3 on that staff. And it's David Price. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's a few games.
Yeah, and it would be left, right, left if that happens. It's never going to happen. But I don't even know if David Price wants to play in Los Angeles. He went to Vanderbilt. He seems to be, a guy who I don't know if he wants to play in a big city. He's playing in a big city.
Are you saying intelligent players don't want to play in L.A.?
No. I'm saying that some people don't want to play in New York. Some people don't want to play in L.A.
True.
True. It's just
remember when Greinke didn't want to come to New York? It was like maybe three or so years ago. He was adamant about not wanting to come to the Yankees and kind of blew.
He's got that issue, too, which he's obviously overcome in L.A. But I can understand not wanting to go to New York. I mean, Ted, you live there. It's a crazy town. I mean, look, the pressure you deal with every day is phenomenal. My hat, if I had it on, would be tipped to you, sir.
Well, thank you.
But I think playing in New York, and Todd, your microphone's a little staticky, just to let you know. Playing in New York is different than playing in L.A. because New York I've lived on the West Coast. It is laid back. It's much more laid back, and New York is much more in your face. And so a guy who allegedly has those issues where it's, he gets anxiety, I think it would be worse in New York than it would be in L.A. That would be my guess. And again, LA.
I agree 100%.
So let's look at the Gold Glove winners that we are going to be joined in just a couple of minutes by Joon Lee to talk hot stove. He writes for SB Nation, and he also goes to Cornell, so he's much smarter than all of us. But look at the Gold Gloves.
Put together.
Exactly. Winners this year, we got Keuchel for Houston. It's actually his second. Salvador Perez, Kansas City. It's his third. Then we've got Hosmer, his third. Then Altuve, his first. Escobar, Cespedes in the American League. We've got several guys who won it for their first time, both in the American and National League. Of course, Molina won it for the 8th time in the National League. Greinke won it for the 2nd time. And Hayward won it for his 3rd time. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up with 8 after it's all done. And let's talk about Jason Hayward, because we were going to talk about him a little bit last week. I think Keith Wall had him ranked number 1. I actually wrote an article for a 3-point conversion this week and had him number 3, I believe. I mean, Hayward's 26 years old. Even if he doesn't put up 35 home runs a year, which he probably won't ever do, the guy is worth having, right? 6 WAR every year. That's the kind of guy you want to have, right?
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, it's just he's that type of player. Yes, you do want. Will he get you 40 home runs? Will he get you 130 runs batted in? No, but Does he have the other tools? Yes.
Yeah, the only problem with Hayward, honestly, is that he just has such a mouth on him. He's just such a bad guy in the clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, there's several writers have said it's like, oh, this is his breakout year because he'll turn 27, and there's no basis in that. A few guys have hit their peak at 27, and some guys hit it at 30, and some guys hit it at 21. It's like, whatever. And I wrote an article, too, and I'm not going to shill myself like Lee does. But he's the guy that you see. He's not going to hit 40, just like Ted said. It's like, who cares? He doesn't need to hit 40. He does everything else. I mean, the guy's an excellent player. Is he an all-time all-star? No, he's not like one of the greats of the game. But those guys don't come around all the time. It's like, would I want him on my team? It's like, yeah. Oh, my God, the Tigers need outfielders so badly. And it's like, and that's not going to happen because they're morons. But that would be terrific. Going back to the Gold Glove thing with Cespedes, he played 2/3 of the season in the American League, and he was the Gold Glover. What's up with that?
Well, I mean,
was there no one else? I mean, was that much better that he basically was almost a part-timer in the league, and he still got the Gold Glove? And I'm not saying he's not deserving of a Gold Glove, Game 1 World Series notwithstanding, but that's interesting. That they, I mean, obviously, it's a lot of respect. That is like, look at the work the guy does. And it's like he plays 102 games, I think, and he still gets the Gold Glove. That speaks a lot about him. I mean, and obviously he's happy to get that award because he's going to cash in. That's going to be a little bit of what he's going to cash in on.
Well, he's not worth $150 million.
That's true, and he is a free agent. It'll be interesting to see what team he ends up with. So we actually now are going to welcome Joon Lee to the show. Joon writes about baseball for SB Nation and can be found on Twitter at @IamJoon Lee. Joon, thanks for being on today. It's an interesting time of the year to be talking hot stove. So let me just get right into it. What are 2 or 3 teams that you think are going to be the biggest players this offseason?
Sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Sure, yeah. What 2 or 3 teams do you think will be the biggest players in the offseason, as far as the Dodgers are going to be a big one or the Mets not going to be? I mean, but who do you think is going to make the biggest splash this offseason?
I mean, the Red Sox started off pretty hot last night with the acquisition of Craig Kimbrell. And from the way that Dave Dombrowski is kind of talking about it, it kind of seems like chasing after one of the top starting pitchers on the market, probably along the lines of David Price and Zach Greinke. Although I'd probably put Price above Greinke priority at this point because of the lack of draft pick compensation. I mean, obviously, I think the Dodgers are going to be right in the mix for a lot of things. They're going to be hot after Greinke and trying to and of course they're going to try position as well. I thought the Angels trade for Anderson Simmons was very interesting on a number of levels because shortstop was not necessarily a big need for them, and their farm system to begin with was kind of thin. And so for them to give up their top 2 prospects, Sean Newcomb, who was a guy that they drafted last year, was pretty notable. I mean, and although Anderson Simmons is one of the best defenders probably in baseball history at the shortstop position, I mean, the guy is unbelievable, and it's hard to quantify how great a defender he is as shortstop. It was pretty surprising for them to give up their top 2 prospects in a time where they don't really have that much else going on in their farm system.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the Braves are giving up Simmons. As you mentioned, he's such a good defensive player, but he's still under club control, really under a club-friendly contract for several years. So it's an interesting move. The Braves have made some interesting moves, but we'll get to the big names in just one second, of course. But who are 3 players that you think are flying under the radar that will actually make a difference on teams in 2016?
Sorry, you guys keep cutting in and out. What was the second part of the question?
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Yeah, what 2 or 3 players who are not big names do you think will make differences on teams in 2016?
I mean, I think you kind of have to start with the relievers there. relievers are such a fickle bunch that you'll get guys on a year-to-year basis who either were great the year before and are terrible the next year, or are average guys the year before and then become very valuable guys. So you can just kind of close your eyes a little bit and kind of point to some of the relievers, and maybe not necessarily get. Maybe not necessarily know exactly who that's going to be, but the reliever market is always kind of a crapshoot. I'm very excited to see what the Twins do with Byung-ho Park. I'm personally Korean, so I've got a kind of a personal interest in seeing how he does. But after the success of Jung-ho Kang with the Pirates, it'll be interesting to see how another KBO guy kind of translates over to the United States, and Byung-ho Park has kind of a lot more power potential than Kang did. So it'll be interesting to see that. There's a couple of other guys coming over from Korea, but other than that, it's a pretty top-heavy free agent market this year. There's not a lot of guys. There's not a lot of depth once you get past kind of some of the big names. Somebody that I'm always interested in seeing where he signs is Johnny Gomes, just because he's kind of a loose cannon, and he's always a team leader. And he gave the speech at the Royals World Series parade, played a game in the postseason, and people still viewed him as a leader. And it was always interesting to see him in Boston and how he kind of impacted the team beyond what he did on the field. So those are just kind of some of the guys that I'm keeping an eye out for beyond some of the big names, I guess, on the market.
Hey, this is Todd, and you hear it. Gomes was amazing. It wasn't even eligible to do anything in the postseason, and he gave the speech for the ages, which was great. And of course, we were talking about Jason Hayward already. His age, his potential. There's a lot of talk about that. Do you think he's going to see a major jump in his production, or is he the guy we've already seen? He's the guy who gives you that, and it's terrific. It's the 6 WAR a year.
Yeah, Jason Hayward's I think Jason Hayward is fascinating on a number of levels because he was so hyped coming out of the minor leagues as one of the top prospects in baseball. People thought he was going to be, this absolute superstar, one of the top 5 players in baseball. Obviously, that hasn't turned out that way so far.
Right.
But if you just kind of look at Hayward's stats, it's kind of hard to quantify just his impact on the field as a total, just because he has such a big impact defensively.
Correct.
Hayward's such an important player on a number of levels beyond what he does at the plate. His offensive numbers might not necessarily kind of grasp how much impact he has on that side, and of course the defensive end is extremely hard to quantify, even with all the sabermetric numbers. And if you just kind of look at his wins above replacement, he posted 6.5 wins above replacement last year, 4 the year before. This guy he's one of the top outfielders in baseball. The traditional numbers might not necessarily say that, but I think he's only 26 years old, and he's still kind of hitting his stride and still trying to find his way through the major leagues. And when coming out of the minors, he had that enormous power potential. There were some of the legendary stories of how far Jason Hayward could hit baseballs. So looking at that and kind of looking at his age, you kind of assume that there's hopefully still a little bit to come. And I think a long-term contract, he's already an extremely productive, very good player. And so I guess considering that and how much potential he has left, given that he is only 26 years old, that's going to give him an enormous contract from somebody this offseason.
Definitely. And I agree on Hayward. It doesn't matter if he reaches his potential. It's why would you not want that guy? He's phenomenal.
Exactly. Even now, he's still one of the best players in baseball at his position. Even if he doesn't ever reaches his ceiling, which was top 5 player in baseball. But in the end, how many Mike Trouts and Bryce Harpers are there? There's not that many.
Right.
You're not gonna have that many young phenoms who immediately hit their ceiling. That's just few and far between.
Yeah, and Harper wasn't Harper until last season. Switching to the other side, pitching. who's the top pitcher? Once you get past Greinke and David Price, who's the top pitcher out there as far as the free agents?
So I think the natural inclination is to kind of go with Johnny Cueto. I'm personally not the biggest Johnny Cueto guy in the world, just because I think there's going to be potential arm issues down the road. He was kind of up and down once he got to the Royals last year. There were times he looked, excellent this year, especially with the Reds. He looked like maybe the top guy coming out of into this free agent class. I'm personally never really been the biggest Johnny Cueto fan, but that's kind of the guy that you kind of naturally point to, just given his track record as that next guy. I mean, there's a bunch of kind of under the radar guys that you can look at in the starting pitching class. Jordan Zimmerman is definitely in consideration for that spot. Hisashi Iwakuma turned down the qualifying offer yesterday with the Mariners, and he'll be on the market. He's kind of an older guy at 35, but he's been pretty successful in the major leagues since coming over from Japan. And then from there it kind of takes there's kind of a big step down in terms of kind of the guys you're looking at. Mike Leake is kind of a middle of the rotation guy, and you kind of have a lot of guys kind of bubbling around in that range.
Joon, how you doing? This is Ted from New York. Welcome to the show. Need you to put your EVP. Hey, what's going on? Need you to put your EVP GM hat on. And you just spoke of a lot of great names. If your team has equal needs for hitting and pitching, who is the one guy you would want?
Sorry, so you cut out. Was the question that if my team had equal needs for hitting and pitching, who would I want?
Yes, who would you want?
From this free agent class, I mean, I'm a very big Zach Greinke and David Price guy. I think Greinke is kind of the close. If you just kind of read everything around Greinke, he's kind of this incredibly intelligent, who through everything he does on the mound. Kind of along the vein of what Greg Maddux did. Obviously, Greinke doesn't have the kind of control that Maddux does. I mean, nobody's ever had the control that Greg Maddux does. But that's kind of the guy that I would kind of pinpoint and go hard after. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily depend on the blazing velocity, rather kind of depending on his pitching acumen and kind of manipulating batters at the plate through pitch sequences and stuff along that lines. And I think that his skill set will probably translate better moving down the road. As he kind of gets older and loses that velocity, he'll be able to transition into kind of a guy who's able to not depend on his fastball and use his pitching acumen to get by.
Gotcha. Joon, I need you to look in your crystal ball. So tell us which teams are likely to make the biggest, probably the most surprising splash that no one saw coming.
I think one of the sleeper teams moving forward is the Minnesota Twins. I was kind of surprised that they won the bidding rights for Byung-ho Park to begin with. And they've got a really, really solid young core of players, Miguel Sano. They've got a solid young rotation. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they kind of do moving forward. And then I'm also excited to see kind of, I guess it's not necessarily a sleeper, but what the Dodgers do and how they kind of shift their philosophy and Farhan Zaidi and seeing how they kind of take the direction of their team with some of the young guys and what they do with their rotation with a bunch of the young prospects coming up through the system. Julio Urias is supposed to be one of the best young pitchers in the minor leagues right now. And then obviously as kind of on a personal, as someone who follows the Red Sox on a daily basis, I'm interested to see what Dave Dombrowski does, kind of taking over for the stat heavy front office of Ben Cherington. The Craig Kimball trade last night was surprising and interesting on a number of levels, and kind of a departure from what the team has been doing over the last few years. So those are the teams I'm kind of focusing my eyes on.
Cool. Hey, Joon, this is Todd again. Just jump off baseball just for a moment, and
sure.
we need to have you back. You're terrific. But I have to ask you, would it be accurate to say that Cornell was your safety school because you were so worried about getting into Stony Brook?
My college application process was kind of it was kind of a whirlwind when I was coming out of high school. I went to an incredibly competitive public high school. Theo Epstein actually graduated from my high school.
Really?
And I actually went to in third grade when the Red Sox were. This was in 2003, and the Red Sox were obviously in the ALCS with the Yankees, and obviously we all know how that ended with Aaron Boone. But I was voted the biggest Red Sox fan, and we all took a school photo that they sent off to Theo Epstein to say good luck. And then obviously they lost in the ALCS and kind of broke my heart for the first time.
So your school jinxed them. Great.
Yeah.
I know there's no way to answer that. Obviously, I know, but we are blessed to have a gentleman whose IQ probably is slightly above our combined IQ with all three of us. So
I went to Boston University my freshman year, and I was incredibly fortunate to have the opportunity to transfer here for the last 3 years of my college experience. I guess.
Well, and we're going to stick with Cornell because why not? So, of these three people who matriculated up and down the field at Cornell, who would be your favorite? We got Ann Coulter, Bill Maher, or Huey Lewis.
Sorry, what was the question?
Of the three people that attended Cornell, other than you, because there have been at least three people other than you who attended Cornell, who is your favorite? We're talking about Ann Coulter, Bill Maher, or Huey Lewis.
And I have to choose from those three.
You have to choose from those three, and that's you'll never come back on this show again. Clearly, because why would you?
I think I'll go with Huey Lewis, just to try to stay away from the politics a little bit.
Welcome
awesome.
back, Joon. We want to have you again.
Well, Joon, thanks for putting up with our last two questions. It's been awesome to have you on the show. We'd love to have you on again. Will you let people know where you can be found on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at IamJoonlee, JoonLee. I write things for SB Nation on their MLB page, also on their Red Sox website, overthemonster.com. On Twitter, I mean, you can find, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll find most of the things that I write, and you'll also have a lot of the nonsense that I tweet out on a daily basis. So,
awesome.
Yeah, I mean that's where you can find me. I mean, I'd love to be back on, guys. If you just shoot me an email or let me know, I'm glad to come back on.
All right, we definitely will, and enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy football, I guess, and enjoy Saturday. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks again. We'll have to do it again.
Yes. So yeah, he was
nice.
as we thought. He was much smarter than we would ever be. At least me. I don't even know if I used the right pronoun there.
Hey, I have an issue. Go ahead with your issue, Ted, and then I'll jump in later.
Why do you guys got to pick on Stony Brook? Because it's Long Island, right?
Oh, no.
Hey,
No.
We love Stony Brook.
We love Stony Brook.
Yeah, I actually said, do we want to use Slippery Rock? Because I don't want to, badmouth. I am serious, Ted. I have a Stony Brook hat. I mean, we love the Seawolves, man. Seriously.
Yeah, Todd for Christmas one year gave me a Stony Brook drinking thing. I don't know how it even started, but we want Stony Brook to win every.
Stony Brook is awesome.
And the funny thing was about
Alan Paul does a guest lecture.
Yeah, the funny thing about Stony Brook is it seems to come up randomly. Like John Clayton, who has a show on 710 ESPN Seattle. This is maybe a month or two ago. He's given out the scores on his show because obviously they're on Pacific time, so it's 3 hours before. So a lot of the scores he gives out games are almost over on the East Coast. And he's like, yeah, and by the way, Stony Brook is ahead. And it was like, Stony Brook? It's just crazy. Oh, you hear that? You hear that static? I feel like Ted's starting to go Megatronic. That's a sign.
Go Megatronic.
It used to be Slippery Rock, and now it's Stony Brook. So he is going. I was just going to say, as far as Joon is concerned, man, what a great guest. And by the way, for all our guests in the future, if we don't immediately say what a great guest, we'd love to have you back on. It's like, we don't like you. Which is why we always say you're a great guest, so because we mask it, we're really good at that. But no, sir, he was terrific. He was a lot of fun, and wow.
Yeah.
Breaking out with knowledge, which is what we need on this show, God knows, because we're kind of stupid.
I liked his answer about the which three. It was funny because when I was looking up I was like, well, I know Ann Coulter and Bill Maher, which you can't get obviously more polar opposites politically. But I was like, there's got to be some rant. I was like, Huey Lewis he didn't graduate because he moved on. Actually, he decided to do music, obviously, but it was like he actually went to Cornell. It was like it's crazy. The people that have gone to Cornell. It's not one of these where it's like we're a liberal school or we're a conservative school. It's like it's a school with a bunch of really smart people. Right. So it's interesting. So let's move on to beyond hot stove. Lou Brock actually had his left leg amputated below the knee due to an infection related to diabetes. It's the guy. Even though he's probably going to have a prosthetic leg, he probably could still 50 bases a year for the Cardinals. Your thoughts on Lou Brock? Todd, you're the Cardinals guy. We'll start with you.
I'm the Cardinals guy, and it's obviously it's sad for Brock and his family, but in a way maybe this is good because you're talking about a high-profile guy, and the impact. And of course, he's in the age group where people who are prone to this is the time when diabetes side effects and symptoms are really going to kick up. Maybe this will be a really good alarm for people. To be mindful of their health, and it's like, man, Lou Brock. I mean, like you said, without a prosthetic, he could probably still 50. Are you kidding me? I mean, the guy was amazing. It's like if he gets a blade, it's like he'll probably be faster. Jesus. But maybe this will be, for overall American health. Maybe this will be a wake up. It's like, and obviously the guy was in shape, and et cetera, and diabetes can hit anybody. But for myself, who obviously I can drop like maybe 200 pounds.
Whatever.
It's an incentive to say, get out there and do something and get into best health. So, hopefully everything is as good as can be for Mr. Brock, and it's. The irony of it, and it's in a way he'll be fine. But in a way, it's just kind of heartbreaking. It's like, wow, the second beta, probably be the third after Ty Cobb because you really got to consider that. But still, one of the guys who really earned his living with his legs, and what a sad twist of fate, put it that way. So all our best to Mr. Brock, and hopefully he'll be fine. And hopefully people will realize it's like, hey, I got to do something because if it's going to hit him, it can hit anybody, and I got to make my chances the best I can make them.
Yeah. Okay, Ted, I'll throw this next one out to you. So I am personally irate about Starbucks and Happy Holidays or whatever, and their red cups. I mean, why cannot they not say Merry Christmas? Because you should just assume no matter where you live that you're just surrounded by Christians, I guess, right? So your thoughts, I'm joking obviously, but your thoughts on Starbucks. And the red cups obviously mean communism. So your thoughts?
Oh, my goodness. And I believe through a text message, because it was the rave of the internet, 48 hours ago. We know, the tragedy that's happened in Paris. Our thoughts and prayers go out there. But
thanks for
48 hours ago, the news cycle was about Starbucks and their fact of removing, season greetings or the tree, and I guess the world is so PC that, hey, this should focus on, the holiday season should focus on everyone and not just Christians. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a bad move. I never heard of anything sillier than this. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, before you know it, I mean, it's to me it's mind blowing because of the commercialization of, you know, Christmas and selling and doing everything that you need to do to pump out as much money to the economy as possible. But bad move on behalf of Starbucks. And yes, I was at Starbucks on Thursday, and I didn't take a picture of it. I forgot to. I received my red cup without any logos or anything on them. Hey, I want to just make a quick comment about Lou Brock. Maybe he can be the spokesperson for, you know, diabetes. Some good could potentially come out of this, because it really affects the African American population. 13.2% of all African Americans aged 20 and older have been diagnosed with diabetes. African Americans are 1.7 times more likely to have diabetes as, you know, non-Hispanics or whites. So it's a serious number. It's something that it needs, you know, that message needs to get out there. Maybe he can turn this around and, you know, become a spokesperson. And just as both of you gentlemen were saying, you got to get out there, you got to walk, you got to eat the right things. You got to do more.
Ted, I have a question. Obviously you researched this as far as, you know, 1.7. Did anything you see, did it say anything about, was it genetic or is it maybe cultural, as far as, you know, there's a reason why African Americans are more apt to have diabetes? Did it state a reason why that could be?
It's really more bad habits, less on genetics, more on the, you know, the some on genetics, but mainly more on the processed foods and what's being consumed in the, you know, the various population. People put a lot of bad things into their system. And you take that over a period of 10, 20 years, you know, and you also have to wonder why they suffer, you know, from kidney disease, blindness, and as we see with Lou Brock, amputations.
Yeah. And is that a function of the socioeconomic? Because a higher percentage of, and I'm not looking at any stats, but we all know a higher percentage of Black Americans are stuck in poverty as opposed to, you know, other groups, and processed foods are perceived as cheaper, even though they're really not. Yes. And so you get, like you said, it's a cultural thing. You get stuck into that. So, you know, wouldn't it be healthier if Bernie Sanders was president of the United States and we could move towards eliminating this crap? Just my little 2 cents.
Well, and I'd like to see a study that breaks it down regionally, as far as, like, so in the South, is it a greater, and whites and African Americans and everything? I just wonder, because, you know, I live in the South, and Todd lives in the South, but we've all lived different places. Ted lives in New York, and I just know, like, when I lived in Seattle, for instance, there was fast food chains, but there was no Walmart. There was no Walmart anywhere near where I lived, and so it was the.
I want to go there.
I assume. I assume that people in Seattle generally, no matter their economic breakup, are probably eat better, or have, maybe not eat better, but have less ability to get really bad food just at one's elbow. Where in the South, it's, there's a Wendy's, there's a McDonald's, there's a whatever.
Right, that's part of the culture, like Ted said. I do want to mention that Hamtramck, Michigan, is the one area in the country where the Starbucks do have Merry Christmas on their cups. Is just kind of a backlash against the city council. So that's interesting. I'm lying, of course, but that's interesting to me that is on the conservative sites, that there's a backlash against that. It's like, oh, how awful rather that they have a majority Muslim council. It's like, if that's who lives there, that's who needs to be on the council. Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
God, what is wrong?
We're talking about a company, Red Cups. I mean, they don't bother me because we're talking about a national company. It's like, I really
they don't bother me at all. It's not their job to sell Christmas.
Exactly.
And all the people is I put Christ back into Christmas, so I want to buy something that has a cross on it? What is wrong with you? That has nothing to do with Christmas. You're a fucking idiot.
There are other holidays that are happening in December, and we have Hanukkah.
Exactly.
I have a Jewish friend who put up
all of it.
I have a Jewish friend who put up a photo of, this will fix the issue, and they had a picture of the Starbucks cup red, but they put the 8 lights, the 8 candles beyond, like coming out of it. Well, it does. Yeah, I mean
the menorah. Yeah.
But
it's ridiculous. And as Ted mentioned, there are more important things to worry about, like Paris.
And I'm glad you said that, because what I was going to say was the fact that
he's right.
He did, but what I was going to say was the Starbucks thing. It was like when that was happening and the people were talking about it on Facebook, social media, just in the news. I was thinking, we have a slow news cycle. Whatever happens next, it's going to be really bad.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, you're right. Unfortunately,
it's awful. It's awful.
Yeah, I wish we were arguing about red cups instead of what happened in Paris. It is a tragic thing.
And it's a tragic thing. Let me ask you this though. Generally, what is your reaction? And it could be good or bad. I'm not looking for a certain reaction, but what's your reaction to so many different? And the ones I've heard are conservatives, but I don't want to just throw it under the bus. As far as an American political reaction to what happened in Paris.
Okay, there shouldn't be any political reaction, as Mr. Trump got slapped down for, making it, politicizing it. To me, the biggest tragedy is that there are people who feel that way. I'm talking about the reaction, I'm talking about the people who did this, that their lives are so awful and desperate that they think, I have to lash out at somebody. I mean, I don't hate the people in ISIS. I feel sorry for the people in ISIS, that their lives are so screwed up that they can't just live with other people. And I understand that's a big idealized, over the rainbow kind of crap. But, true Christians are not going to want to go out and kill somebody for their feelings. That would not be the reaction. The reaction would be to reach out and try to help them move past this and see that, there should be no infidels. There should just be people. And that's the tragedy to me. It's not just, and I'm not belittling hundreds of lives lost in Paris any more than I would belittle the thousands that were in New York. But that's the tragedy, is that people just can't let people be people and believe in what you want to believe. It should not impact me. You should be able to be happy with your life and believe in what you want to believe, and not just think that, you're wrong because I'm right. That's the tragedy to me, because that's the ongoing problem here. It's not who was killed yesterday. It's who's going to be killed tomorrow. That's what really hurts me.
Every week, every Sunday, and it's known, and it's in my Twitter handle that I'm a Christian. Okay, I don't sit on any podcast where I'm sitting here talking about saving lives or come to Jesus or any of that type of stuff. But, Philippians 4:13, is something that I live by. Okay, so every week I'm in church and we're talking about, sometimes the message is, the war is against Christianity. I'm going to flip it, and you guys are probably going to throw me off this podcast after this, because all Muslims aren't terrorists. As much as yes, there's a certain faction that's doing evil. Could you imagine being a Muslim right now in America or in one of the neighboring countries? You kind of feel like, oh my goodness, here we go again.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to leave it right there. Because I don't want this to turn into something political or religious or anything like that. But
hey, Ted, it's our show.
Make imagine?
That's
Go ahead,
Ted. I'm sorry. Well, I was going to say I would definitely not throw. I totally agree with everything you just said. Absolutely agree. So because it is. It's a matter of, if I were there are certain groups of every religion that are more militaristic and more
exactly.
This I'm right and you're wrong. And it's, I mean, you know, we look at it, but we did have, you know, hundreds of years ago, we had wars fought over this. This isn't something that's happened recently. I mean, we've had an Islam Christianity issue for a long time, and there are a lot of places in the United States who all they know. Back Tennessee, we live in the state of Tennessee. They didn't. There's a place in Middle Tennessee. They didn't want a mosque built there, and then those people were fine. They were good people in the community. They didn't want a mosque because it was Islam, and it was like. It's unfortunate, as Ted and both of you guys have said. It's unfortunate that, you know, if I live in the United States and if I were Islamic, which I'm not, I'm not going to go there, but I'm not Islamic.
Right.
But I would be like, these people are making the majority of us look bad. I mean, we look at Akeem Olajuwon, Malcolm X. Those guys were good human beings. Yes. Are you good human beings? So,
you know, as Ted said, we're a long way from all Islamics are terrorists. 23% of the population of the world are Islam. Obviously, they're not all terrorists, are they? Because if they were, we would all be dead, and you know the world would be populated by rats. So you know this concept of Islam is evil is absolutely absurd and ridiculous. The same as Christianity is evil because of the wacko fundamentalists who have the view that Islam is evil. It's exactly what you said, Lee. It's just the extremists that give the whole a bad name. And the key is not war. The key is education. The key is talk.
It is.
That's the key.
Yeah, but in the state of Tennessee, again, there is Islam, not Islam fundamentals that are taught in school. It's an overview of different religions that are taught, and people don't want that taught. Because, and then what do you learn from being ignorant of something?
It undermines
nothing.
Exactly. It undermines what they know because all they've ever heard is that. And it's how much faith could you possibly have in something if learning about something else? Oh my God, I might change my views. How awful is that? It's like, what the hell is wrong with you? That's awful. That's awful to have that kind of viewpoint. You shouldn't even be qualified to be a human, let alone a parent, if you're afraid of knowledge.
Yeah, yes. So we should try to end on a happy note. Let's just try to find some happy. You know what?
I'm drinking beer.
I'm not drinking anything. I'm drinking a diet caffeine-free Mountain Dew, which is basically useless.
No kidding. Why don't you drink sawdust? What the hell is wrong with you?
I mean, it doesn't taste bad. It's just there's no point to it. So. College football is today. We have professional football tomorrow. I don't know if that's good or bad, but you know, real quickly, you guys, what do you think about Clemson being number one? Isn't that crazy? I mean, they're not only number one in the college football playoff as the way that's designed, but they're also number one in one of the polls. Yeah, AP poll. It's I don't know if you guys.
Hey, they beat God's team. They beat Notre Dame. Going back to religion. So that's why they're number one.
I think they're number one because Rex Ryan was wearing a Clemson helmet at the press conference.
Ted Wann's show over. What a debacle that was.
Oh, my God. I will tell you. I don't know. Did we lose Lee?
Thankfully.
Woo! Oh, okay. Woo! I tell you this much. Now we get to talk about wrestling, Mr. Todd Vandenberg.
No, let's not talk about wrestling. Why don't you thank our millions and millions of listeners throughout the world, and just get the hell out of here because our fans are enough.
I think you're right. There's so many people that we want to thank, but we'll start off by thanking the fact that we have so many different shows on the network. Some of the shows are aired live, kind of like us, or, well, some of the shows are hybrid like us because you never know if we're live, if we're recorded, or all of the above. But some great shows on the network. That's What She Said Sports, BG and Nicole. Want to thank our friends, of course, EJ Christian, who does the Earnestly Speaking podcast, G Stelio, the G Stelio Sports Hour, and or The Only Show That Matters. I think the show was named to The Only Show That Matters. Also, the Seahawks Show with our very own Lee Vowell. The FWAT Show with Rob Steele, Yellow Carded Podcast, of course, Baseball Beer and Barbecue, and in 2016, the tennis scene comes back. So I guess with that, we're going to say thank you to our friends.
And thank you to Joon Lee for being our guest.
Oh, Joon Lee for being our guest. And that's about it. Lee is he's in an alternate universe, but
he's on 616. He's training for WrestleMania 2016.
Oh my goodness! Any final thoughts, Todd?
No, a fantastic show as usual. As far as just the level of fun I had talking with you guys, because I always do, and hopefully at least one person out there appreciated our stupidity.
All right. With that, we're gonna hit our outro. Well, we're going to try to hit our outro. And if we can't hit our outro, you know what? We're out of here. Later, guys.
Okay, let's do this. Jog 3 miles before breakfast. Make it to work by 9. Run out for a salad at lunch. Ooh, time to own that meeting at 3. Yes, 10,000 steps. What's next?
Fearless is not hitting snooze. That's the power of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Federal Employee Program. With more healthy benefits and tools, no one does more to help you live fearless. Sign up at fepblue.org/action by December 14th.